The Fortunate Future is brought to you by NIKO, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the NIKO community at www.niko.eco.
Welcome to The Fortunate Future. I'm your host, Lemore Markman. On today's show, we'll be covering the blockchain. What is the blockchain, how it works, and the many ways it can be used to advance various industries. This new technology, which is the backbone of cryptocurrencies, is creating a new level of accountability and transparency that we haven't seen before. We'll also be covering the unique angle and advantages of investing in a rent-to-own property as compared to a more traditional way of investing in property for rental. To round out the show, we'll be discussing reverse mortgages. They provide a way for seniors who are strapped for cash to be able to stay in their home into their retirement years without needing to downsize in order to access the equity in their home. It's going to be a fascinating show, so stay tuned. When embarking on the journey to understand cryptocurrencies, you inevitably must understand the backbone of the crypto world, which is the blockchain. Investments in all kinds of digital assets, from Bitcoin to video game skins, it's set to explode due to blockchain technologies. With me to explain the blockchain and its many complex nuances is Shadan Guran, CEO and President of Global Blockchain Technologies. Shadan, tell me, what is the blockchain?
The blockchain, Lemore, is a method, a technology that lets you transact digital assets without having a third-party intermediary, or to actually transact anything without having a third-party intermediary. That's why it's so important, because it really is a database that anybody in the world can write and read from, while knowing that nobody else can tamper with what you wrote to it.
Right. And the blockchain was created originally for cryptocurrency. Is that accurate?
It was. It was originally created for Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and many other cryptocurrencies have come around it. And now it's starting to be adopted by the payments industry and the banking industry, who
Yeah.
plan on using it for transferring money as a money transfer system, transferring stocks, these kinds of things, in a much faster, more reliable, and efficient manner in general.
So while it's sort of in the mainstream more synonymous with cryptocurrencies and digital currencies, it sounds like it's being used in many different industries. Can you tell me a bit about some of the other ways it's being used?
Yeah, so you could actually build something like a YouTube or a Facebook, for example, that is a commons. It's owned by everybody who is part of the network,
Right.
because everybody has a copy of the software and the database,
Yeah.
and it's all synced up together. So that's really amazing. If you think about it, what it does is it allows like an Uber to become decentralized, and by that we mean that there's no central Uber that decides who gets paid, what the fare is,
Yeah.
and controls the database. But everybody has that, and it makes the taxi driver or the TV producer or any content producer essentially the important party, not so much the middleman who controls a database, which is what a web app really is.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, one of the advantages is, of course, now you're saying there's decentralization, which is very important in the digital finance world.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other benefits of having a blockchain?
Other benefits are provenance. So you being an expert in real estate, I'm sure you're aware that in a lot of parts of the world, provenance and tracking land deeds and whatnot is a
Yeah,
major issue. This can actually bring, this technology can make it much safer, much more secure in knowing who owned it, and being able to follow a chain of title for ownership, essentially.
Yeah, and there's greater transparency, if I'm understanding correctly, than in many of the other systems that we've had previously.
More so than any other system. So with blockchains, there's huge applications in the supply chain and trade finance space, for example.
Yeah.
Right now in trade finance, you don't know, or supply chain I should say, you don't know what the books of one of the suppliers was. But now you can chain up all the ledgers of everybody, know exactly what products were used to make something, where they're coming from, that they're legitimate, they're not, knockoffs, whether it's a microchip or a component for a bag, you'd still know that it's the real thing, and how it's all come together. And it allows the accounting of all of that. Right now, you take small samples when you do accounting.
Yeah.
Now you can take the whole big picture of the whole trade and everything that went into it with these technologies.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a lot of industries that could benefit from greater transparency. I mean, whether it's, like you suggested, property worldwide, or maybe even nonprofit or charity, but there's probably a ton of value that we'll be able to get with increased transparency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the idea of digital currencies and community currencies shouldn't be discounted either. So one project that we're working on is, in video games right now, digital assets have real value. There's something people go after, whether it's a sword or a car, it has value. You can actually trade it for dollars.
Right.
We're working on a consortium of right now 12 gaming companies who will be agreeing to use one, universal currency within all their games, because not any one of them controls it. The blockchain controls it now.
Right.
So you'll be able to buy a sword, you'll be able to earn it inside the game and prove that you've actually earned it. So you can build games that speak to the blockchain and say, yeah, this guy really killed this monster. He deserves, this many tokens.
Yeah.
And you can use it from one game to another. So that's a massive deal, and we have 400 million users.
Absolutely. And that's a very creative use of the blockchain. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what would you say are some of the exciting new things that we can maybe anticipate if we look sort of 5 or 10 years out that maybe we can't even begin to fathom will be on the blockchain?
Everything will be on the blockchain. Pictures, trading pictures and digital rights management, videos, that will be on the blockchain. Your loyalty points will be transferable from one party to another very easily, and between different companies. Anything that can have potential value and can be traded will be put on a system like this, a very open network, and you're going to have things that look like currencies, thousands and thousands of things that look like currencies all over the world. Each community, each social network, maybe even each municipality will have its own token that it can issue to everybody. Yeah,
absolutely. Ton of creativity, and we'll see where life takes it from that perspective. So definitely very, very interesting. We'll have to keep abreast of where this goes.
Yeah.
Now, we've been referring to the blockchain, and I hear that commonplace all the time. Let's just bust a myth here. Is there only one blockchain? Are there lots of different kinds? Maybe you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, there's different kinds that actually employ different technologies that are better suited for certain applications compared to others. So there's thousands of them already, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though we reference it, as the blockchain, it's a technology that, in fact, there's lots of them of where we have an opportunity to have the transparency and decentralization.
So
as you mentioned.
Actually, now an inter-blockchain network is becoming important as a concept. Blockchains being able to communicate with each other, so you can transact from one to another, without any intermediaries. So if you have that gaming token, you can trade it for Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, for example.
Right.
And there are solutions coming out for that. One of them I'm involved with personally, called Laser, the Laser blockchain, which kind of acts as a Swift of blockchains and allows you to interact one currency for another on the blockchain itself. So things like that are coming around, and I think that's the future, really.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's great that you're on the cutting edge and working on this. Just as we wrap things up, what are you most excited about around the blockchain technology and where we're going?
For me right now, still the currency aspect is the most exciting thing. Like I said before, there's going to be thousands of currencies out there, and for a long time people thought that currencies were going to unify into one or two, like the euro, the US dollar, essentially. But what we're really seeing is that doesn't make sense, because why should Germany and Greece have the same currency when they have such different economies, for example? So you're going to have many currencies. Now it's possible. Before it wasn't, because now your cell phone is your wallet, right?
Of course.
And the cash register is just a computer, as a point of sale system. So you can have thousands of currencies in them, and they can easily transact with each other. And
well, that's the trick, right? As long as they can interact with each other and exchange and go from there.
That's what blockchains really help with.
Fantastic. Shaidan, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lamore. Yeah.
As you can tell, there are no limits to what can be achieved leveraging the blockchain technologies. It is certainly going to be a part of the evolution of many industries. Coming up after the break, we'll be discussing why investing in a rent-to-own and helping a family get into a position of home ownership may be a far better investment than purchasing a rental property. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The Fortunate Future is brought to you by NIKO, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the NIKO community at www.niko.eco. Nikola Tesla was an inventor and futurist who helped shape our world. Nikola Tesla Unite Limited was formed to advance his visions of making the world a better place for all. Using a cryptocurrency called NIKO, Nikola Tesla's legacy is being taken to new places in ways never before imagined. NIKO is the center of a digital economy that brings like-minded people together. Those who believe in the vision of Nikola Tesla are part of the NIKO economy that aims to empower everyone with the ability to achieve their dreams. For more information, visit www.niko.eco.
When you think of real estate investing, making a personal profit and building generational wealth are at the forefront of what comes to mind. But what if you could not only increase the financial returns on your investment and help a family get into a position where their dream of home ownership could come true? Making money and helping others are both key components to this unique investing strategy called rent-to-own. With me in studio is Alfonso Salemi, co-founder and owner of Jag Properties, Inc. Alfonso, what does it take to invest in a rent-to-own?
From an investor standpoint, the investor is going to want to find a pre-qualified tenant buyer or a rent-to-own opportunity. After that, they need to provide the capital and be able to qualify for the mortgage that we're going to buy the house with the rent-to-own.
So the investor then, in some instances, but not all, is responsible for putting all of the pieces together.
Yes. Yes, from an investor standpoint, yes.
And so one of the differences, if I understand correctly, with a rent-to-own versus a straight rental is that sometimes you lead with the tenant buyer first, the individual who you're going to be helping, rather than going out and finding a property and trying to find someone to rent it. Is that how it works?
That's right. Typically, the tenant buyer is the first piece of the puzzle, and understanding what they need to do to qualify for that mortgage in that set period of time. So instead of finding a property first, it's really finding the client first, understanding what their needs and requirements are so that we can get them qualified for a mortgage.
Right, and I've heard you say that a rent-to-own is a far more secure investment than just buying a property and rent it out. Why do you say that?
Well, a few different reasons. One is the tenant buyer is actually providing a pretty significant deposit, which it creates an incentive for that tenant buyer to have a successful rent-to-own program. The other benefit of them having that deposit, it actually lowers the capital investment that the investor needs to bring to the opportunity as well.
So instead of the investor needing to put 20% down, they use some of that deposit to sort of offset how much money they need to put in.
That's right. That's right. And that's an incentive for that tenant buyer to be successful because that's credited back to them.
Right, and a successful tenant buyer situation is such where they're a tenant for a few years and then they become a buyer in the future, is that right?
Correct. It's a home ownership and training, really, is that for some reason or another, that tenant buyer can't qualify for a mortgage today. And with the proper guidance, steps, and roadmap, they'll be on that path to home ownership.
Which is a fantastic way to not only help somebody, but have a secure investment as well.
That's right. That's right. And they have a stake in the game. They have that pride of ownership.
Right. And so from a tenant buyer's perspective, how is their mentality different than that of a renter?
Well, they have that pride in the home. That's the home that they've chosen, that they want to live in, to grow their family and basically establish their better financial premise in society. Is basically that renter, that normal renter, doesn't have that stake as that tenant buyer does. They're responsible for the maintenance, the repairs, the improvements to the property. So that's what makes them a better option than a normal renter. There's less turnover as well too. So you're not constantly replacing your renters. They're set for a 2, 3, or 4 year period of time.
Right. So you've got someone in there who is set in place for a number of years. They have a strong homeowners mentality. They've put down a deposit and they're looking to change their financial future. What are some of the other benefits for the tenant buyer in this scenario?
Well, again, they're getting that training, that financial education of what they need to do to own that home. It's the same way as if you wouldn't call your landlord, you'd call a plumber. So they're getting that home ownership mentality. They're getting that training, that financial education that's getting them on the right path to home ownership.
And so then that, of course, helps the investor because then the person is really invested in the property
Correct,
itself.
yes. Besides the deposit, yes, they have a stake into that claim. They've chosen the property. They have that sense of ownership. They're a homeowner in waiting while they're correcting those issues.
Now, the investor, what were to happen to them if for some reason, unbeknownst, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know what's going to happen in life, if the tenant buyer walks away or changes their mind, what happens to the investor?
The what ifs. So typically we would work with the client, or the investor would work with the client to see what issues they still need to work on to get to that mortgage, to get qualified for that mortgage. If it's a possibility to extend the program, say another 6 months to a year. The other option is that that person or that tenant buyer, that renter, stays in that home, forfeits their deposit and stays as a normal renter. So that owner, the investor still has that property and is renting to them. Or in a worst case scenario, sell the property for what they can get on the open market.
Right. And so if a tenant buyer decided to forfeit the opportunity for whatever reason, that initial deposit would then go back to the investor.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother buffer, what makes it a fantastic return. Even better, I would assume.
That's right.
Wow, fantastic. Well, lots of advantages. Thank you so much for being here and for communicating those. I think we're going to have a lot more investors exploring rent to own as an option. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Limor.
With the ability to help a family in need and secure even stronger returns without having to deal with the property management, it's no wonder investors are considering rent-to-owns for their own portfolio over purchasing rental properties. Alfonso and I continued this conversation with an exclusive follow-up interview where he shared his take on what to look for when first investing in a rent-to-own. You can watch this interview and additional topics on our website, thefortunatefuture.com. Coming up after the break, we'll be discussing how reverse mortgages work and why so many seniors in Canada are exploring a reverse mortgage. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The Fortunate Future is brought to you by NIKO, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the NIKO community at www.niko.eco. Nikola Tesla was an inventor and futurist who helped shape our world. Nikola Tesla Unite Limited was formed to advance his visions of making the world a better place for all. Using a cryptocurrency called NIKO, Nikola Tesla's legacy is being taken to new places in ways never before imagined. NIKO is the center of a digital economy that brings like-minded people together. Those who believe in the vision of Nikola Tesla are part of the NIKO economy that aims to empower everyone with the ability to achieve their dreams. For more information, visit www.niko.eco.
Reverse mortgages allow seniors with equity in their home to access that equity with no payments due until they leave the property in the future. A reverse mortgage can give a senior a chance to retire happily in their home when they otherwise couldn't necessarily afford to do so. They are, however, misunderstood, and the concept can be confusing. Today we'll be debunking the most common myths of a reverse mortgage. With me today is Yvonne Zayameki, EVP of Marketing and Sales at Home Equity Bank. Yvonne, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited to learn about reverse mortgages. Can you maybe give me a little bit about them? Because I know there's lots of myths out there about misconceptions about them. So tell me a little bit about how a reverse mortgage works.
Sure. So a reverse mortgage is very simple, despite what you may have heard.
Yeah.
It's a mortgage for people who are 55 years or older, who own their own home. It's their primary residence, and basically it's an equity takeout product. So we will lend you money against the value of your home. And you don't have to make any payments as long as you live in the home, and you can use the money however way you want it.
Wow. And so how much money can you actually get from the property?
So that's the number one question when,
Right?
when people call into the call center. That's the number one question people have. So the amount of money you can get will depend on a couple of factors. First one will be the age, and then we take into consideration the age of all the people living in a house and all the people who are on title. So it's very important to remember that, because they're different family situations. So age, value of the house, type of the house, and where the house is located. But just to sum it up, the older you are, if you live in an urban center in a single detached home, the more you'll get.
Yeah. Is there sort of a best case scenario in terms of percentage of equity if it's all paid off? Can I ask that?
Yes, of course. So the maximum we will lend is 55%.
Okay.
And you would have to be in your late 70s to qualify for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the other benefits associated with having a reverse mortgage?
Well, so you can stay in the home. You can retire in the home that you love.
Yeah.
You're not making any payments, so you're freeing up cash flow to do whatever other things you may want to do. You can use the money any way you want. So you can pay off debts. If you have an existing mortgage on a house, for example, you can use the proceeds to pay it off. You can use the money to help your children or your grandchildren, for example, for a down payment on the home.
Wow.
You can use the money for home repairs. So many people have waited all these years to do a kitchen reno or do something fancy or family room renovation and so on. They can use the money that way, or just to supplement ongoing expenses.
Yeah. And I've heard you mention, so correct me if I'm wrong, that you have a couple of choices in how you take the money out. So it's all at one, or there's some structures you can opt into.
Yeah, people seem to think it's a very rigid product and that it's only a lump sum, and maybe goes back 20, 30 years. But there are many ways you can take the product. So you can take it in a lump sum. You can continue taking what we call subsequent advances. So you can, every year maybe take another $10,000 or $20,000 if you have that within your limit. Or you can take it monthly as little as $1,000, because we have a lot of people who are waiting to bridge their old age pension or CPP, or business owners, for example, who are waiting to sell the business, and they just need a little bit money in between to tie them over. So very, very flexible, despite what people may think.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the criteria to qualify? I know you mentioned a couple already, but what does somebody need to have in order to qualify for a reverse mortgage?
First of all, a home.
Yes, okay, a home, right?
So 55, home. So there are a couple of things. We ask for an appraisal because we need to understand how much the house is worth. So it's an independent appraisal of the home. And based on that, we can determine how much money they can qualify for. The process is fairly straightforward. After we have an appraisal, a customer fills out an application form, just like with any other mortgage application that they would be doing. And then once it gets approved, they have to take all their paperwork and go and get independent legal advice. It's a process that it's a step in the process that we insist on.
So you've outlined a couple of the steps, but maybe if we can just kind of outline them sort of start to end. What happens until that money gets into my hand?
Of course. So contact us first.
Okay.
You can go online, www.chip.ca. There's a lot of content on the website. You can read information, or you can fill out a form. Then so that's step number one, contact us. Number two, if you're interested, we will request an appraisal. So appraisal will be done. Okay. Number three is the application process, lots of paperwork, just like with any product.
Lots of paperwork.
Number four, independent legal advice, making sure that you know what you're doing. And number five, you get your money.
It's that easy.
It's that simple.
That's fantastic.
We funded mortgages in under 7 days.
Wow, that's really quick. Now, I've heard that, if you have a reverse mortgage, there is a possibility that your house could be taken away. Is that true, or what does that mean?
Oh, there's just so many rumors and hearsay about the product. I honestly don't know where it all comes from, but we ask for 3 very basic things when we release the funds to people. We ask for people to pay property taxes. It's very important.
Just like they do when they own their house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To have insurance on the house. which is also very
Standard.
important. And we ask them to keep the house in good standing. So as long as you fulfill your basic obligations,
Yeah.
honestly, there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
Fantastic. And the fair market value, what happens if I have a reverse mortgage and the market drops? We've known that that's happened in certain parts across Canada. Could you end up owing more than the house is worth? Is that something people should be concerned about?
So interesting that you bring up the point. So we have a little 10-question questionnaire about reverse mortgages, and that's the question that half the people get wrong. So half the people think that if you owe more than fair market value of the house, we will actually come after you or your estate for it.
Yeah.
And half the people think that you're off the hook. The people who think you're off the hook are the ones who are right. So
Okay,
we
great.
guarantee that you will not owe more than the fair market value of the house. Should there be a shortfall, we are responsible for it. We will cover it. And it doesn't happen very often, but you know,
Yeah.
we've been in business for 32 years, so we've seen
Markets
various
go up,
cycles.
down, and sideways.
But you could be at the wrong
Yeah.
place at the wrong time, and it could possibly happen. But that's our guarantee that the homeowner will not be penalized. We actually let you, your family, should you have passed away, sell the house. We don't get involved in the sale of the
Okay.
house. You sell it for fair market value, and then you pay us back.
Fantastic. And so remind me one more time, if we've got some folks who are interested, where's the best place that they can get in touch with you guys to find out if this is a good solution for them?
The best place really is online, so www.chip.ca, or they can give us a call, 1-866-822-2447, which basically is 1-866-822-CHIP.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for providing such a fantastic offer to those that this is a good fit, because I'm sure there's many folks out there where you're giving them tremendous peace of mind and financial security in their retirement. So
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Limor.
thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Each person's financial situation and goals are different. And with so many of us unprepared financially for retirement, a reverse mortgage can be a lifesaver. For those seniors looking to enjoy their retirement but don't have adequate finances to do so, a reverse mortgage is a fantastic option. Yvonne and I continued this conversation with an exclusive follow-up interview where she shared criteria for a reverse mortgage as well as how to find out if it's a good fit. You can watch this interview and additional topics on our website, thefortunatefuture.com. This wraps up today's show. Be sure to tune in every week to learn more about cryptocurrency, investing in real estate, and of course, personal finance. I'd like to thank my guests, Shadan, Alfonso, and Yvonne, for being here on today's show. For more information, be sure to check out our website, thefortunatefuture.com, where you can find additional online content. Thanks for watching. I'm Limor Markman. Until next time, your fortunate future awaits.
The Fortunate Future is brought to you by NIKO, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the NIKO community at www.niko.eco. Hairstyling provided by Hair Love by LB Hair. Hair products provided by Kevin Murphy.